Nobody can afford video games anymore. Yeah, that's kind of a problem, isn't it? Yeah, like, and it's crazy how expensive everything is just to do that.
Guys, we're in some serious trouble. Gaming has been getting more expensive by the year, but right now it's about to get more expensive by the day. It already has. The same components that I have in my PC right now cost twice as much as they did just 2 years ago. RAM just rose by 200% in just the last 2 months.
Is RAM having what GPUs had like 4 years ago? Is that what's happening?
And I know some people are going to look at this and say, oh, well, this is a PC problem. No, all these different components, they're used in just about everything. Handhelds,
I'm not
consoles,
as familiar
whatever
with it.
else. Everything is going to get dragged up with all of this. What's happening right now is that AI is taking over the world. Who would have guessed it?
Wow.
And these data centers are doing everything they can to be able to keep up with this AI gold rush because everybody wants a piece of that money.
Yeah.
And that's pushed these guys to raid the consumer market for products.
Yep.
Buying up everything off the shelves before we even have a chance to get our hands on it, causing a lot of scarcity and making prices skyrocket with no end in sight.
Yep.
The part that really bothers me with all of this is just how obvious this play is. These guys are just getting way too sloppy for me. It's starting to aggravate me at this point. Like, if you're going to be a scammer, you got to try to hide it a little bit. But these guys don't even want to bother hiding it anymore.
No, they don't. People just eat this shit, man. They let it happen.
They're not trying to do anything to fix any of these issues. They're not scrambling to fix any of these supply issues. Instead, well, they're just, they're milking it. They're keeping their production tight. They're raising the prices, and they're using AI as the best excuse possible for them to just continue to take advantage of regular people, to squeeze you harder than they ever have before. And they're doing it all with governments backing them. They're going to drag this out as long as they possibly can, because every single month that they keep these prices higher, they're just going to continue to rake in record profits.
I think that the companies probably want to produce more of them. It's just that you can't make a supply chain change that fast. And like, that's what happened with like the graphics cards like 4 or 5 years ago. Wrong? It's not. Like, look into it. The fact is that sometimes the markets can move so fast that these companies aren't able to adapt to them. Like, another good example is cars. Like, we've had the same issue with cars, especially with like different, I think it was semiconductors that were, or like some sort of chipset for cars where it was hard to even buy new cars. It's everything. It's control, brother. I think that realistically, it's probably both. I think that there is a degree of manufactured scarcity, but there's also a degree of just a realistic supply chain scaling logistics reality.
I want to talk about those
That's what I think.
Insanely high prices and who's causing them. I want to talk about how I think the games industry is using this moment to be able to manipulate us, and how I think this entire thing might backfire on them in the most glorious of ways. This video is sponsored by Displate, and right now they are running their biggest sale of the year.
I got a Displate. An ex-girlfriend sent me a Displate of Dark Souls 3, and I put it up, and I remember reading this thing. It said, don't put this on something that's an uneven surface. And I'm thinking to myself, when the fuck do I ever read? And so I just put it up against an uneven surface. And I remember about an hour later, I heard the loudest sound. And it was right there. So it was like, it started banging down the fucking stairs, and what's the worst that could happen? The worst did happen. Yep. I don't know why Israel would do that to me, man. How could this happen?
We have talked a lot about prices on this channel, and we are going to continue to talk about prices on this channel, because if there is one thing that I actually want to bring to this space, it is awareness. Most people feel helpless when they see these prices spike. They feel like they're being pushed out of their own hobby, like decisions are being made for them by people who don't even care about games in the first place. But the more that you guys understand what's happening, the easier it is to see the pattern. And guys, navigating what's coming next is going to get very hard, very fast. After the reveal of the Steam Machine, the first thing I saw was everyone arguing about the price. A lot of people were convinced that it needed to be $500 or $6 at max, and that Valve should subsidize it to bring in more users. A whole different topic for another video, because Steam does not need a loss leader to get more people through the door. But I took the time to actually dig into the potential hardware costs and ended up chiming in on Twitter saying that Valve isn't posting the price because they're hoping that things change. The AI bubble has pushed RAM to obscene levels, almost 200% this year. People are saying it should be $500. That's the price of RAM alone.
$500. Like, who thought that was going to happen?
Now, this is a bit hyperbolic. Sure, I was using the highest-end hardware prices, but the more that I researched this trend, the darker the picture became, not just for Valve's console, but just for gaming as a whole. Right now, we're seeing hardware prices skyrocket across the board. All of it's tracing back to rapid data center expansion, a tidal wave of investment that's been poured into AI. According to Stanford, the U.S. has almost already spent $110 billion into private investments just in 2024. Global spending in generative AI is already up 600% between 2022.
Oh my God, look at that graph. Total investments of billions of dollars.
2025, that number is estimated to hit $1.5 trillion. With that kind of money flying around, AI firms are expanding their data centers and buying up existing hardware at a pace that consumers simply cannot compete with. That demand alone is enough to be able to drive these prices through the roof, and that's before you even factor in scarcity.
Yep.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. How many people have been ignoring this? We have seen companies and even the media try to blame these price hikes on tariffs. They've been doing it all year. We've covered it on this channel, but this isn't about trade policy. This is an increase. It's driven by raw demand for components, and everyone is just letting these hardware companies and these software companies spin whatever narrative they want, whatever narrative benefits them, with almost no pushback at all. How has nobody questioned this?
I think that the reason why is that, I mean, number one, tariffs are a more convenient thing for the media to use because they can blame that on Trump. So if you look at, like, this is the same thing with, like, I think eggs are a great comparison here. The reason why the price of eggs was so high towards the end of Biden's presidency is because there was an avian flu that went around and killed all the birds. That's the main reason why. It's not because of Biden. It didn't go down because of Trump. This was a third-party thing that happened, and both parties were trying to blame and then assign blame or avoid blame for this thing. Biden gave the birds the flu on purpose, so maybe he did. I don't know. He could be a wizard. But the point that I'm making is that, yes, I think that this is the same thing that happened with tariffs, is that media will never look at, because media is either trying to portray Trump as great or Trump as awful. So because Trump is aligned with tariffs, you're not going to get any sort of realistic, any sort of like actual like information about this. You're not going to get a nuanced opinion on why the price of something is going up whenever you look at CNN or Fox News, because that's not what their goal is.
Hardware companies are making record money off of the AI boom. They're selling hardware by the truckloads to these data center giants. They're soaking up billions of dollars in new investment, and they're still not expanding production for consumers.
I think that the reason why they're not expanding production is that a lot of these tech companies, I think, are waiting for what they believe is coming, which is some sort of like large technological innovation that is like in the process of being discovered or arrived upon. And I think that's the reason why you haven't seen a massive scaling of production lines. That's the reason why you haven't seen a massive increase in supply chains or anything like that. Quantum computing, yeah. Like people don't know what is AGI, what is quantum computing going to be, and how will it function and change our lives on a day-to-day basis, and how you actually, you know, fucking make something, and how valuable is it? Like a good example of this is cloud computing. Cloud computing, like we all know that in 50 years, we're going to be using cloud computing for basically everything, right? Like this is obviously where things are going. But the question is, when does that happen? But it's inevitable that it's going to happen. But when it happens is the question. And I think that these companies don't want to invest into something that they feel like is a short-term gain.
Instead, they're keeping their supply tight. They're raising prices. They're pouring all that new money into high bandwidth memory for AI. They could ease the pressure on the consumer market if they wanted to, but why would they do that when scarcity is letting them charge more? So squeeze the normal people while feeding the AI expansion that's only going to just make all of this so much worse. Gizmodo only recently picked up on this issue with an article titled "We're So Screwed," written by Kyle Barr, where Barr wrote,
I don't like this article because it reminds me of the Starforge website. It does. This looks just like the Starforge website. Like, what the fuck?
We have been reporting about the spiking cost of RAM prices since October. Essentially, AI data centers have such a demand for memory that the prices of SSDs, DRAM, and HDDs are all ballooning in price. This is most keenly felt in the discrete PC RAM market. Corsair, one of the most popular brands for fast gaming-ready RAM sticks, told Gizmodo over email our DRAM prices have increased in response to the severe supply shortage we're seeing across the industry. And it just keeps getting worse. A pack of 64GB DDR5 RAM from memory brand Crucial spiked from $150 to more than $400 in just 2 months, as evidenced by Amazon's price site, Camel. Other low-end RAM sticks may see less of a bump, but users will inevitably find that the more RAM they want, the more it's going to cost. 4 sticks of 16GB DDR5 RAM from Corsair now sells for an astronomical $688.
What the fuck? Because, like, before, this is the way it always used to be. It was GPU, CPU, RAM, and then maybe motherboard and power supply underneath of that, in terms of, like, cost for a computer.
Same sticks in white demand $948, and
$1,000
they're not even the priciest RAM available. Guys, I want you to know that this is nothing like the crypto boom that we saw just a few years ago, where GPU prices were driven by a hype cycle that eventually died. AI is far more of a tangible technology. It is going to keep expanding, it's going to keep improving, and it's going to keep getting massive support from governments and corporations worldwide. Yes, there is a bubble forming, something similar to the dot-com era, where only a few players are actually going to end up owning the market.
That's probably true.
Even when that burst happens, the winners are just going to buy up the losers' data centers, and they're just going to continue to grow.
That's actually a really good point that he's bringing up, is that, like, whenever there is a consolidation of companies and consolidation of businesses, like what happened after the dot-com boost or boom, is that, you're probably not going to have a reduction in data centers. You're not going to have a reduction in, you know, like the amount of resources. There's just going to be a reduction of names, the different names on those resources. What about monopoly laws? Oh, I don't know, man. Why don't you ask Apple?
Keep in mind, after the crypto crash, GPU prices never really went back to normal. So hardware prices...
They went down, but he's right that they didn't go back to normal. This is one of the nastiest fucking things that companies do. And they did this with, like, McDonald's did this. Is that, like, they took the COVID pricing and then they made that the new normal. Go up 100% and then they go down, you know, like, let's just assume that all the numbers are the same. Like 85%. So you're still paying theoretically 15% more.
Might come down eventually, sure, but they're never going to go back to what we used to pay.
Yeah.
And this is not something that's just going to be to memory or GPUs. It's going to stretch across every piece of computer hardware, gaming PCs, handhelds, consoles, phones, everything. It makes getting into the hobby, upgrading your setup, or even just replacing something that breaks insanely expensive for everyday people. And I think that's exactly what these companies want right now. They want to squeeze customers harder than they ever have while raking in all of this investment and government backing, all to feed these business-to-business sales while the rest of us are going to deal with the fallout. At this rate, the hardware market is going to become completely inaccessible for most people.
I think this is true in the immediate sense. I feel like if it doesn't change in like 2 years, you are going to say you're either going to have new players come into the space that offer something that's better, or you're going to see a technology change where it's more accessible. Like, just realistically, like, you can't leave a unanswered market for too long, because if you do, you're going to have other people come in and answer it for you.
People talk about how the Steam machine needed to be $500 or maybe $700 at most, and these guys do not know how fast these prices are moving right now. The costs have ballooned so much that I could easily see every single major console that's coming in the next couple of years costing over $1,000 when they get revealed. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, that's not going to work. Nobody's going to buy hardware at the...
I think that they will. I think that people don't understand how big of a wealth gap and how big of an equality gap we have in the country. The top 10% of income in America is like $150,000 a year or something like that. It's a ridiculous amount of money. People think that it's still like 2008. No, like, it's like everybody else. It's kind of like, let's say you're playing an MMO and like 30% of the population bought the expansion to Burning Crusade, and you're sitting there and you're still in Classic. Well, what do you mean you guys have armor penetration? What? You can get that? Oh, wow.
Honestly, I think that's exactly what some of these companies are counting on. Nearly every major publisher in the gaming industry has gone all in on AI. EA just announced their partnership with Stability AI. Ubisoft has come back from their little media silence with some new AI deals and a push for AI teammates to replace making actual friends, which is incredibly bleak. But the clearest example here is Microsoft.
I know somebody who she talks to ChatGPT on a regular basis. Look at that shit. Who does this?
They have poured billions of dollars into OpenAI and Anthropic, and they've committed another $80 billion to AI-enabled data centers. They are directly feeding into the same expansion that is driving hardware costs through the roof, the same expansion that they blamed on tariffs. It is a mutually beneficial relationship for them, not for us.
Well, this is the same reason companies are like, oh, yeah, things are so hard with COVID, so we have to make things more expensive. Okay, well, COVID's over. Are you going to make them less expensive? Oh, man, things are so hard with tariffs. We're going to have to keep things being so expensive.
Guys, this is the oldest trick in the corporate play. Create a problem and then sell the solution. If people can't afford gaming hardware anymore, well, that becomes the perfect opening to be able to push cloud gaming, where you don't need to have a console or a PC, just a screen and a subscription.
Is the future.
I talked about this in my video. This is the last warning, where I argued that Microsoft was pushing prices higher on purpose to be able to funnel players into cloud services where they already have been testing ads inside of their games.
Absolutely. You will own nothing, and you will be fucking furious about it. You're fucking out of your mind.
You're crazy to think that. You're crazy to think that this is all connected.
Yeah.
Guys, I do not think you understand how big the gaming industry actually is. The U.S. entertainment sector is the largest in the world, and gaming alone is 3 times. It makes 3 times as much as film and music combined. It's still young, it's still easy to manipulate, and there is a lot of money on the table.
We haven't even gotten to hyper-realistic AI cat girls. That's the big one. And we're not even there yet.
Anybody that can wedge themselves in that ecosystem, especially if they can figure out how to force ads into whatever they want, whether we like it or not.
Yep.
So when I see this, I do not see a bunch of different trends happening all over the place. One big pattern. And I'm not saying that, oh, it's gaming that's helping to push this entire AI situation. No, it just so happens that, well, it's just falling in the perfect spot for these companies to be able to take advantage of it. And of course, they're going to be taking advantage of it. That's exactly what they're doing right now. It's where coincidence and opportunity have collided for these guys. And it just so happens that your money, your hobby, and your enjoyment are caught in the middle of it. Ironically, this is happening at the worst possible time for us, because the console wars are effectively dead. Exclusivity is largely gone at this point outside of Nintendo.
Yeah,
and
fucking Nintendo.
These guys don't care about pushing their games to be able to make profit. They're trying to profit off of their services and off of their hardware now.
That's actually a really good point, too. I don't know if they're going to profit off of the hardware. I'm not sure if I'd agree with that. But I think that the using services and service fees, that is going to be the new way that companies make money. And I think that the best use case of that, and like the you know, I guess like the frame of reference they use is Valve and how much money they've made with exchange fees, transaction fees with CSGO. So you have all of these people that are able to make tons of money on like these, fractional microtransaction costs that just kind of, it's like, like how do ants eat something that's really big? Well, they eat it one little bit at a time, right? But eventually it's gone. And that's what they do.
There is so much money hatting going on in AI right now. It's just absolutely crazy. Every single one of these companies has their hand in each other's pockets. If you see where some of this money goes, you see one company gives it to another, that company gives it to another, and then it goes straight back to the source. They're just circling all this wealth while squeezing us as hard as they possibly can, trying to make as much money off of us as they possibly can and force us into poverty is what it feels like. Probably actually exactly.
That's working. That's working very well.
I mean,
it's extremely
NVIDIA
effective.
and Microsoft are the biggest perpetrators here, and both of these guys have cloud gaming services.
Of course,
they have no problem with hardware prices spiking and people
because it all leads into their business model. It fulfills their business model, and it accelerates their business model for hardware prices to be basically unapproachable.
Not being able to get into higher end hardware. That's That sounds great to these guys.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to expand. They're going to continue to invest. And they're doing that off of the back of investments that they're getting from private and public investors and also from the government.
Yeah, exactly. We're paying them to price us out of our own hobbies. We're paying them so they can scrape our data, sell it back to us in a censored way that reinforces their own fucking control. And we're supposed to be happy.
It's insane. These guys effectively have
I'm done
price
doing it.
control
No, you're not.
over the hardware industry.
No, you're not.
Because, well, they can just order them out of stock.
It's only
right now, this is limited to higher-end hardware. It's going to trickle down to lower-end hardware. I've seen some people talk about, well, I'll just buy DDR4. It's cheaper. You're not the only one thinking that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Instead of 5, I'm going to get 4. Oh, my God. This guy's so smart.
And because this scarcity is largely inauthentic and inorganic and is being controlled, well, that means that they're just going to affect those markets regardless. And the same thing goes for console markets as well. They can use the exact same excuse. Well, because the data center expansion, sorry, the GPUs or the RAM or whatever else is too expensive for this console. It's going to have to be more expensive. They're going to push it there too. And the reason why is because these guys do not need hardware to be able to make money off you anymore. It's not necessary for them.
It's a good thing, too, by the way. It's a good thing that, I mean, cloud gaming is going to make technology more accessible to everybody. It will be an improvement, and it will be better for everybody. But the problem is that the approach to getting there is very unpleasant and painful. For what costs? Well, I think that, again, like, you guys, this is really important to keep in mind, right? Is that for a lot of us here, we are 1%. We are 1% in regards to a lot of you guys make a lot of money. You know, I generally have an older audience. This is a tech and computer, you know, video game based channel. So you have a lot of people that are like involved in, you know, that kind of stuff. A lot of people make money, right? And a lot of people. Like every time if I go to an event, the people that own the business probably fucking know me. And so that's it. I have a digital empire. There you go. And so I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying that I have a very high ratio of those people. So what my point is that obviously for us, the ability to invest in, and also like a lot of you guys, like we play video games a lot, right? Let's say, and we're older. So you have more resources generally. This is generally, I'm saying generally, not everybody, generally, okay? Relax. So because of that, you might still want to be an enthusiast. You might still want to invest in the highest hardware and do all this stuff yourself. But what I'm saying is that for an average person, for a lower income person, that person will be able to access higher quality technology at a lower cost with cloud gaming in probably, I would say, 10 years. And I think less than that.
The people who can afford it, and then they can push those who can't into subscription services and cloud services where they can feed you ads or you pay a monthly sub. Doesn't that just sound lovely? Now, I'm sure it sounds great to these guys. I'm sure they're all in on this idea. And if I was in one of those rooms, it would probably sound pretty good to me. But this entire thing is incredibly risky for them to do. Not because anybody's actually going to come in and try to interrupt it. That's not going to happen, at least not for a while. But they're under the assumption that customers are going to continue to chase them wherever they go. We're chasing the highest end hardware, the highest end games, but that's not necessarily what's been happening. See, the question they need to be asking themselves is what happens when players go in a different direction entirely? Because that's exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Not to interrupt the flow of this video, but man, it really sucks that we even have to be talking about any of this. We should be celebrating what this industry is capable of, especially with the Game Awards right around the corner. I've been eyeing a second playthrough of Expedition 33, and every time I think about that game, how confidently it ignored all of the noise, how it cuts through everything, all of this industry's nonsense. It reminds me of how things could be, how things should be, and it also reminds me of how disgusting these executives are who want to drag this hobby into the mud for profit. I genuinely believe that these major hardware and software companies think raising the price floor is going to guarantee them victory. If people can't afford new hardware, they're just going to default to cloud or whatever subscription.
They will. I think that's what will happen. I do. I think actually that is what will happen. Like, I know people say like, oh, I won't do that. I think that's what will happen.
Service pipeline that they want to shove us into. And once players are trapped in those ecosystems, well, then these companies have full control. They can raise the prices. They can tier their access. They can lock features behind a monthly fee. They can do
they're gonna Netflix you, right? They're gonna get you in Netflix in 2008. Oh my God, everybody had it, right? Like we all had Netflix back then, or our parents had it. And then slowly over time, the enshittification of the product happens. And I think that's where things are going to go with something like cloud gaming. I think at the beginning, it's going to be great. And then I think that you're going to have artificial, like let's say latency increases, right? Like if you want a fiber optic connection or like a higher, like a precision, like machine or connection, you're going to have to pay more money. And then if you want certain games, you're going to have to pay more money. And then suddenly you're getting piecemealed and dissected until you're paying like $50 a month, right? And this is what happened with Game Pass, is that Microsoft invested a tremendous amount of money into making Game Pass a really great deal and a tremendous value. It was a great deal and a tremendous value. I think it was. I've had Game Pass. I think it's amazing. But here's what happens, is that after you establish that market, after you control the market, now you can raise the price and you don't have as many competitors in the space that are really going to, like, you're going to lose business to.
Whatever they want. They can even slide ads in with almost no friction. That is the future that these AAA publishers want.
Yep.
Now, the problem for them is that I don't think this plan is actually going to work in the real world. It's built on the assumption that everybody needs the highest end experience, that we are all desperate for cutting edge AAA titles and will follow the industry wherever it tries to push us. But that ignores the biggest risk in their entire strategy, one that is already happening right now. What if people don't buy in? What if players stop chasing high end entirely? What if they split into a different direction, a shift that ends up starving AAA while fueling the rise of studios who can thrive without expensive hardware?
I do think this will happen also as well, is that, and you're already seeing this happen, where smaller indie studios are able to bring out video games at a infinitely lower price point. Well, not infinitely lower, but like, $10 versus $70 price point. And I think they've been able to capture a huge market of people.
I'm going to give you guys two business terms: demand destruction and market bifurcation. Demand destruction is when prices stay so high for so long that people just stop buying a product altogether. Market bifurcation is when a market splits into two groups that behave completely differently. The haves and have-nots in this case, if you will. And we're seeing both of these happen in the gaming industry right now, even if the shift has been relatively slow. Just take a look at Steam's latest hardware survey. NVIDIA's brand new 50 series GPUs, they're not even in the top 10. They're not even in the top 15. The 5070 sits at number 16. The 5060 is 22nd. And all their other high-end cards, they might as well not even exist at all. The top 5 are dominated by lower-end 30 and 40 series cards.
Well, it makes perfect sense. Like, these higher-end cards are really expensive. They are. They're really expensive. Like, an average person doesn't have $1,000 to spend on a graphics card. Really, like, that's insane. Like, look at this. Like, yeah, and a 3060, I think, yeah, you can run a lot of things with a 3060. Especially with DLSS. I know people don't like it, but I think people probably like DLSS more than spending $2,000, especially whenever they don't have $2,000.
People are not upgrading, and when they do, they're choosing the cheapest, most sensible option they can, either because of the cost or because they don't see any reason to chase higher-end hardware anymore. I think that this industry has completely misread this. I think that they're looking at these numbers and assuming that people want the highest-end hardware but simply can't afford it. But that doesn't really track with reality.
Well, I think it is true that people can't afford it. But the thing is that affordability is always a spectrum. Like, the reality is that for like a 3060 is going to be able to run like 90% of games, right? 95% of games. And so are you really going to make a very large purchasing decision for being able to play a handful of video games with a different water texture? There's a huge diminishing returns there.
Switch 2 broke console sales records by selling over 2.4 million units in only 3 months. And nobody believes that that's cutting-edge hardware. People bought it because they wanted the games, not the specs.
That's how it is.
And beyond that, these companies are operating under the idea that players want to upgrade just to be able to play the latest AAA releases. But why would anybody want to do that anymore? Why would we want to spend thousands of dollars on a new rig or a console when these games come out broken day one? Borderlands 4 is still a performance nightmare with the developers issuing apology after apology. Monster Hunter...
There's no excuse. There's no excuse for it to be bad. Expedition 33 was made with Unreal 5. Monster Hunter was total garbage. The original Dragon's Dogma wasn't like this. You have Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Like, you know what I wish Jeff Keighley would do? I wish that he would make a category for video games for optimization or making a game accessible for like lower end systems. I feel like it would be kind of like more of a tech award. But I think that companies like, Warhorse, right, that made Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I really think they deserve a tremendous amount of acknowledgement for that. And you have now also Where Winds Meet. There's another one, too. And, maybe for the Shame Awards, we'll have to do the opposite, right? Like, is the winner going to be, geez, guys, is this going to be Borderlands 4 or Monster Hunter Wilds? Who's the biggest loser here?
Wilds tanked all of its momentum and its reputation because it couldn't run properly either. These are two of the biggest AAA releases this year, and both of them are defined by the same problems. There has been a sharp decline in sales across the board for AAA because people just aren't impressed anymore. And that's the part that these companies don't really seem to understand, is that the issue when your games don't justify the hardware.
The issue also is, like, a lot of these AAA games, they are making graphical enhancements, but the enhancements are so granular that, I mean, really, people can't really hardly see them. I mean, you're having, and I think that also graphical fidelity is overrated. Stylistic lighting is underrated. Two great games that emphasize this are three, actually. Wuthering Waves, that's the weakest example. My strongest example is Elden Ring. If you actually look at Godfrey, you look at Godric, you look at their character models, they look like shit. They look like absolute garbage. Like, the actual fidelity pixel count for a lot of the things in Elden Ring are very mediocre. But because of the lighting, colors, and shading in the game, it looks incredible. And the other one that's very new, that some people said in chat, Where Winds Meet. Incredible, amazing game. Awesome graphics, but the fidelity is very low. But it's made up for because of the lighting, the shading, and the style of the game. Yeah,
when the hardware stops selling, the high-end market freezes, and AAA is going to be the first thing to suffocate.
Bring back style? Yeah.
What I think is happening right now, and it's only going to get worse for the AAA industry, is that with these rising hardware prices, especially if they bleed into the next generation of consoles, it's going to effectively put a stop to high-end gaming entirely. They are building a price wall that people cannot climb, and in doing so, they're going to destroy their own demand. Players do not trust AAA enough to be able to justify their game, let alone a $1,000 console or a $4,000 PC upgrade. And if they're not buying the hardware or the games, well, why would we be interested in the services that are tied to them? What is the point of cloud gaming or subscriptions if the games on those services aren't worth our time? All that I think is actually going to happen is that this market is going to split. They're going to accidentally fuel the rise of AAA even further, which honestly is this industry in its purest form. Smaller teams, lower budgets, higher creativity, more original ideas, and no need to chase higher-end hardware. These games are targeting mid-range or even older systems by design. And when you look at what people are actually playing this year, Expedition 33, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Escape from Duck-Off, Mega Bonk, Ball
I bet you can probably run, like, I bet a 2080 Ti could run Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, approaching 60 FPS. That's ridiculous.
Even Stellar Blade and Arc Raiders don't need a 5090 to run well.
Arc Raiders isn't
can get everything they want without buying any of this high-end hardware at all. The funny thing is, when you zoom out on all this, there really is only two futures that are ahead of us right now. One is the one that the corporations want, and the one is the one, well, players are actually moving towards right now.
I actually do think that there will be a growing demand for cloud gaming. I do think so, and I think that cloud gaming for a casual player will actually be a solution that has a large, sizable audience, and I think that that audience over time will eclipse PC and also console gaming. I think that it will probably always be mobile gaming that will be the biggest one because everybody has a phone and it's a common denominator, but after that, you're probably going to have cloud gaming be the most popular of the three. because of its accessibility and the lower price point that it's going to have.
The corporate one, obvious expensive
happen.
hardware that nobody can buy. Cloud gaming is the affordable alternative. Subscriptions stacked on top of subscriptions. Ads baked straight into the experience. A world where every part of gaming is metered, tracked, monetized, and controlled.
Oh boy.
That is the endpoint that these guys have been built for years. Because in that future, they own everything. We own nothing. But there's been another future that's been forming underneath their feet this entire time. And it's one that these guys just haven't planned for. It's a future built by AA studios and mid-tier teams that have been making incredible games that run on any hardware that people actually own. A future where the most popular game doesn't require a $4,000 rig or a $1,000 console. A future where creativity outperforms fidelity, where studios that are willing to take a risk end up defining the industry more than the ones that are burning $500 million on another forgettable game.
Creativity has always outperformed fidelity, by the way. You want to know the best example of that? Minecraft.
And I really think that this entire thing should terrify these AAA publishers. They should not be trying to lead into it. If these players stop upgrading, if they stop buying into high end, then AAA is the one that becomes an endangered species.
That's actually a very good point, is that, AAA gaming and its necessity, it does rely on continually increasing the quality of products, or the quality of the systems.
At the end of the day, we're the ones that decide where this industry goes. And if the industry starts building a future that we don't want, well, we simply just walk away.
Yep.
I have a strong feeling that outside of Grand Theft Auto 6, if it actually releases, next year is probably going to play out just the same as this year.
I think he's right. I think we're going to have a number of dark horse, incredibly very good, indie games, and I think that those indie games will keep gaming going, but it doesn't look like there's any AAA game that's coming out next year, except for like maybe a handful, that are like super amazing.
There's just not going to be a lot of winners in AAA. I mean, more than half of the nominees for Game of the Year this year were all independent or indie studios. And that's not just, these are just for the awards. No, these are also some of the most beloved games by players and also some of the highest selling games that we've seen all year. And that's going to leave these guys with not a lot of other options. I know some people are probably going to say, then they'll just start making AA games themselves. They'll just stuff these services with AA and they'll stuff them with indie games, but that really doesn't make a lot of sense.
That doesn't make sense. Yeah, of course not. The reason why they're AA is because the studios don't have the resources to make a AAA game. Like, that's the reason.
What is the point of your subscription service or your cloud service if, one, I have the hardware, so I can play those games regardless anyway, and two, those games are cheap to begin with.
Yeah.
Why would I want to pay $30 a month plus to be able to play games that I could buy for $15 to
it's like $5
in some
exactly.
cases? Doesn't make any sense. I mean, Game Pass, I know right now is about $30. I can guarantee you it's probably going to climb to $35 or even $45 next year. Who knows how that's going to go? And that's more than most people spend on video games in a month. It just doesn't make any sense. Nobody needs it. I don't need it. I can tell you that right now.
And I think also the other thing, too, is that like you're going after an audience that if the price point is too high, doesn't exist. Because the people that have a lot of free time probably don't have a lot of disposable income. And the people that have a lot of disposable income probably don't have a lot of free time. So the ubiquitous nature of, oh my God, you can play 150 games. These are people who struggle to finish one game. So like, where is your, like, what is your actual market here? I don't know.
And it's also something that they really shouldn't be supporting. I just don't see a lot of movement in hardware. And helping to push those prices even higher, you're going to starve yourself. Because I just don't see a lot of people that are chasing some of these new releases. Sure, we've seen some movement, we've seen some buzz, but I don't know if you guys have noticed this. With a lot of these AAA games, the minute that they come out, the hype around them dies like that. You just stop here.
When was the last AAA game? I guess like Battlefield 6 did really well. Besides that, when was the last AAA game that came out that was like a success? Arc Raiders? Would you say Arc Raiders is a AAA game? I wouldn't. I didn't classify it as that personally.
Battlefield 6, I think, is probably the only one that I could point to this year that has actually kind of survived for the most part. But Monster Hunter Wilds, that game just absolutely tanked after its first month. They haven't been able to sell. I don't even know if they've even sold another million copies past the first 10 that they sold in that 1 month. That is crazy.
I mean, the game Monster Hunter Wilds, it just has so many problems, right? I mean, we could get into it, but yeah.
That is not good, man. That is not good. And when we're starting to see equipment dive off of a cliff like this, you're going to have to come down to meet those players. And if you're not willing to do that, you're in a lot of trouble. I can tell you that right now.
Well, you're not going to be able to make your money back because your activatable market, your market is not large enough in order for you to make your money back. It's very simple.
What hardware you guys use? I want to know what people are actually using, because I can see a Steam survey, and I talk to people in our community Discord. If you guys don't engage in our community Discord, you should. It's a group of absolutely fantastic people, but most people there are on lower end hardware. A lot of people that I know outside of myself, the only reason why I have a rig as great as I have or as expensive as I have is because of all the work I do with editing and recording and all that stuff. Outside of that, I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't get it. Are you kidding me?
True.
I'd be playing on something else entirely. I'd probably still be playing on the 2080 or 3080 that I have behind me. But yeah, I'm really interested to see where all this stuff goes. The one thing that I find really interesting about this, if you're a AAA publisher or if you're just a bigger publisher in the games industry at all, I would be really interested to see how they feel about a company like Microsoft having the influence that they have right now, because they're making the industry incredibly uncomfortable for a lot of these other companies, just as a byproduct of what they're doing on their AI side. All the investments that they're making, all the money that they're putting in, all of these different data centers and things like that, the increasing of prices of hardware specifically pretty much across the board.
I mean, yeah, of course they're going to focus on AI because like making video games, like the problem is like the ceiling for AI right now is theoretically infinite, but the ceiling for selling video games is finite. And I think that they've been at that ceiling for a while. So obviously they're going to go into something else.
Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Kick, follow me on Twitter. And make sure you guys come back later this week. I think I have like 2 more videos that I have to do this week. This one just kind of popped out of nowhere, and I was like, I got to talk about this. But anyway, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
I feel like this is going to be a big one, and I think it's going to continue getting worse over time too.
Guys,
for pricing until you have affordable cloud gaming, I think pricing is just going to get harder and harder. I don't think that you're going to see RAM prices or any of that go down anytime soon, because again, I don't really see these companies trying to change trying to change anything else, right? They're probably just not going to do that just because of something very short. I think that there are a lot of just logistical and structural reasons why this is happening. And I think realistically, like an overnight price increase, I mean, how much RAM can you realistically make, right? Because you have a whole supply chain that has to change because of this thing. It's hard to do that, really.